Good morning. I am the chair of the Conflicts of Interest Board, and I'm calling this meeting to order on July 19th, 2017. This meeting is being conducted pursuant to New York State Open Meetings Law, Public Officers Law, Section 100 et sec. For purposes of this meeting, I am designating Julia Lee as the recording secretary. Today we have before us consideration of possible proposed amendments to Title 53 of the Rules of the City of New York. Are there any comments from the board or staff on the draft of proposed amendments to Title 53 of the Rules of the City of New York?
This one.
Okay.
This one, perhaps correction. I guess in the commentary, I have on page 10 in Exhibit 3, where we talk about a restricted organization account, it says donations in excess of $400. Maybe we should say donations aggregated in excess of $400.
Okay.
That's my comment on the proposed.
That sounds reasonable to me. I have a couple, literally three, so it's more than a couple, but I don't think any of them are major. One is for the definite, it's in 3-01, it's the definition of household member, 3-012, which I guess is on page 1 of Exhibit 3. I guess it says include, so I wasn't sure whether includes is limiting, because I was wondering whether this includes all people who are household members in fact, is what I would call them. I would give as an example my adult daughter, who is living with me now. And she is, I guess, emancipated, but she's still living in my household. So would she be, would we want to include non-domestic partners and spouses and non-emancipated children who are household members in fact?
So I think the answer to that question is what this definition is intended to include are the relatives who are specifically enumerated in Local Law 181.
Okay.
So if you look at in Exhibit 1A on page 4, you'll see the definition of person with business dealings with the city,
Okay.
and that includes any domestic partner, spouse, or unemancipated child of such person. And the idea here was, in order to make it readable and consistent about who is being aggregated throughout the board rule, we defined that term so that it would be sort of a readable and concise way.
I'm wondering though whether you might want to use a different term then, because I think it's a little, it's a little misleading, because there are members of my household who don't fit into this category. Affiliated persons, associated persons, and we use associated in a very different sense elsewhere in our law. I don't have an answer, but I just think it's a little, I know you're right that we shouldn't be going beyond what the law says, so it's right to, I think, to limit it this way, but maybe there's a different phrase that could be used, is all I'm thinking of.
Or define unemancipated.
No, it's not the unemancipated, it's more like, there are people who live in, it isn't all we're doing is defining household member, just it's slightly deceptive in that there are many people who could live in your household who don't fall into the category of household member. So there's a kind of a discrepancy between household member in fact and household member in rule, and I would like to minimize that if we could.
Affiliated person, is that?
I would use that unless anybody has a problem with that. Only because, again, if people says household member, somebody might object that we're not requiring a statement from someone who's actually a household member, but they don't see the full definition. Would people okay with that? Or?
But then we say for purposes of this rule, if that's not within the definition of household member.
I do think it's confusing to have a definition that doesn't actually meet the common sense definition. I'm not strong views about that.
Person is gonna
I think
create a whole other issue.
that's tricky.
Yeah.
Okay,
For this purpose, because then we're still defining affiliated person in a very specific way
Okay.
for this purpose as well.
So what is the, let me go back to page 1. It's where's the rule again? Sorry.
It's okay. It's
It's
in
Exhibit
Exhibit 1A at page
1A.
4.
Okay, 1A, page 4. Okay.
maybe a quarter of the way down in the top.
Yeah. How about persons covered?
But it doesn't include.
How about persons covered? Instead of affiliated persons, but persons covered? Covered persons? I mean, it could either be in English or in German, however.
Do you remember how we met the household member in the first place?
I don't, actually.
It
This,
made sense at the time.
this is just a term that I think we created because we're trying
Included
to.
those people, it included those people who are
Percent.
typically in household.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, so this
Other
is,
aspects
I
of
don't want to spend a lot of,
Where are we looking to insert it on 1A, page 4?
so 1A on page
where are we looking to
4
put it?
is the law, and that has persons with business dealings with the city,
Yeah.
includes.
Definition exhibit.
Oh,
Domestic
well, that's
partners.
not the.
No, I see
And
that, I
now-
know the definition.
No, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
definition
yeah,
is-
yeah.
In our world.
Yeah,
It's our
yeah,
world.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
exhibit 3,
Report on the household.
1, definitions.
No, but then it appears throughout,
Right,
many
it,
times.
it
You have
appears
to-
throughout the rule. As,
Right, so you're gonna drop it in as a definition under this paragraph.
That's correct. On
Right.
page 1 of Exhibit 3, in the definition section of Board Rules 3-01.
Not in 1A.
Now, it's exhibit 3 has the board's proposed definitions, and right now the second item, first actual definition, is household member.
Right,
And-
the purpose of creating the
Yeah.
definition was because it's referred to so many
Yeah.
times in the
Yeah.
rules that to
It was
say a
already-
billion times spouse, domestic partner, unemancipated
That's how it
child.
came up in
It
the
was
first
just, it was
place.
right, the board had
We said-
suggested
Right.
at the last
Since it means
meeting,
a certain thing in this context.
right, to
let's-
refer to it as
So
a
let's leave that.
category.
I was gonna change it to persons covered, but, all right, let's leave it then. It's not, as long as it's clear.
Relative?
No, it was, I would say,
Not
I mean, it's more
relative
like,
either.
say, because the law says persons, blah, 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 include, I was gonna just change it to persons covered. But if the rest of the board prefers household member, I don't care.
I like the restrictive definition of household.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing I might suggest
It's
based on
some,
here
but
is
not
to
This
change
change includes to means.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Means.
I agree with not adding affiliated.
Now I was gonna make it persons covered.
I don't-
Adding just adding.
Okay, so just change household, just saying to change from includes to means.
Yeah,
Okay, all
that's
right,
correct.
fine. The second one I had is on, relates to page 6 of Exhibit 3, and it's actually relates to the commentary. And it's sort of the long third paragraph on page 6, Exhibit 3. The paragraph repeatedly uses the verb expands, and that makes me nervous because I'm not sure our rules can expand on the statute. I think we're interpreting the statute, or we're explaining the statute, or we're elaborating on the statute. But I don't know that we can, let alone expand, let alone say use expand. So it's on the first line, it's on the fourth line in the underscore, and it's on the first line after the underscore.
I think it's actually there in 3 places.
And maybe, expand makes me nervous. And I would just sort of say elaborates on, develops, elaborates on, or explains that the factor includes. I mean, you have to do a little bit of rewriting, but I just think expands is exactly what we can't do.
I think develops would be great. I would point out that the administrative code here actually authorizes the board to add factors, which we are doing here.
I was looking at this.
But I think develops is, the specific places where the word expands
Yeah.
is used is where we are proposing to add essentially the agent
Right.
into an existing factor that's in the administrative code. So in that way, sort of expanding that particular factor. I think develop describes that fairly well, but I do think that the board is within its authority here.
Developed is the word.
Develop's an odd word.
That's not what it's doing.
Add is actually.
I was going to say elaborates on the factors, because elaborates is a sort of as a way of, helps to, proposed subdivision elaborates on the factors contained by looking not only to,
Oh.
that gets at the idea that it's sort of explaining, or deepening, or in some sense, but I'm just afraid that in some potential future challenge, someone's going to, and yes, you can come back with a defense that we're authorized, but I could see this point being
But aren't we really clarifying it? We're saying it's not just entity, but that's also the agents.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have the right verb on me, but I was thinking it elucidates, elaborates, develops, explains that,
Fine.
refines. I mean, just something that suggests that we're within the four corners of the statute rather than pushing it out.
We added a piece to one factor.
To three of the
We
factors.
added clarification too.
Yeah.
Clarifies
I-
that.
I-
Specifically talking about C.
I'm comfortable with
C, D, and E.
Maybe clarifies proposed expressions.
Refines.
Refines and clarifies are sort of mean the same thing. I'm comfortable with either one.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
It's like
Okay, you guys can.
We're gonna
butter
write
or
this.
oil.
Where's the lack of clarity to begin with, and what's in need of clarification?
Right, right.
I think refines is there's something that exists, and because of this triggering act,
Okay.
we are doing
Refines is
something
good.
to zero in to resolve the problem.
It may involve changing some prepositions or something as you go along, but I just want to make it clear that everything we're doing is within the four corners of the statute rather than pushing it
I
out.
think you're perfectly right, absolutely.
Okay, and then the third thing I had really relates to something I think that came up in the prior board discussion, which is for the next page, or the continue over of 6 to 7, which is this discussion of subdivision, proposed subdivision G, which initially was F. I thought we had talked to the board, some members of the board last time suggested putting in some examples. And there aren't any examples. It doesn't necessarily bother me that there aren't any examples, but I just wanted to note that in case other members of the board wanted to have examples.
I think that this was an attempt to try to provide an example. I think it probably ends up coming off as much more of a description of the kind of category of entities. The kind of entity that I think purpose would where the purpose would indicate that it was more likely that an elected official had control is actually a little bit difficult to describe in a pithy way. That is, an example is a little hard to describe in a pithy way. Obviously, sort of counter examples like an alumni association where the purpose doesn't seem like it would connect to control is an easier example to provide, but an example of an entity where there is this, we think, a city purpose, or where it aligns with the political interests of the elected official is a little bit tricky to come up with.
Well, you gave a broad category for the example,
Yes.
as opposed to, Richard, are you
specific-
saying a specific entity?
Yeah, it's really, I'm bringing it back to the board. I'm just sort of pointing out the things, some people, I don't remember the exact, who said what, but there was some interest in having examples. This does clarify some, so I think this definitely takes us a step ahead before, and it satisfies me. But I just wanted to make sure that as I was looking at the comments from the last meeting, the things that we asked for, one of them was examples. This is less of an example and more of an explanation. I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure everyone was aware of that, and if we're fine with
I
that.
seem to
too.
recall our conversations more on what doesn't qualify. Like
There was some, the alumni
that-
association.
The alumni
that example,
association, that was what we were really focused on, but I can't recall an example of what does.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take a shot at trying to give a pithy example of an entity that where the purpose might, in fact, suggest that an elected official would have control. You can imagine a not-for-profit organization that is created for the purpose of fighting against a proposed infrastructure project in the city, and also an elected official who sort of takes the lead in fighting against that same proposed infrastructure project. You can imagine that their interests become so unified in this that the not-for-profit entity begins to act in a way that is directed toward the success of the political interests of the elected official. That's,
You can
and
give that as an example.
it's a little difficult to
You could
describe that.
add to the end of this, where you give the general category, something like, as opposed to an entity like an alumni association whose purpose is solely to, that sort. So you could fold in your easier, to use your word, pithier example of what doesn't count as, and then that way you give it a full.
Yeah, phrase it like, this is not meant to include, or this is not mean, something like that.
Or, yeah,
Certainly, that makes sense to me. We can do
That's
that.
the easier way.
Yeah, something by contrast when it's not connected to a city purpose, such as.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe just even such as maybe membership in the officials' college alumni association or something, then it would not be. So maybe just one more sentence. I mean, not even be a full-fledged example, but, well, it would be an example in that
It's
sense.
just contrasting.
Yeah, maybe one more, a by contrast example, a by contrast sentence, which would, since the Alumni Association thing has come up several times, it's a good example of something which is not.
Although I guess that's the clearest example
Yeah.
where it would never,
Right.
well, I'm so wary of giving specific examples, just in case you never, I guess with an alumni association, you just know that.
Well, remember that this is just one factor amongst
Oh, that's
many
true.
enumerated,
Right.
and the
Right.
test actually is not exclusive to this
Right.
list of factors. The test
Right.
is a totality of the circumstances test.
This is
Yeah.
the control test.
Correct.
Or the control
Yeah.
factor.
Yeah. Hey, so right now it reads, while any entity, regardless of its purpose, can be controlled by an elected official, the board is more likely to determine that an elected official or agent of an elected official controls the organization for the purpose of an entity is connected either to a city purpose or with the political interests of the elected official. By contrast, where the organization has a totally non-city related purpose, such as the alumni association of the elected official, then the board is less likely to buy it. Something like that. Is that what
I
we're?
think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
In that same section, we were talking, what are the factors? B, whether the board members serve for terms fixed by law, and perhaps it should say fixed terms, because I'm not about corporation, it's fixed by law, not about bylaws. So, whether board members serve for fixed terms, or can be renewed without clause.
So Jeff, I'm sorry, Jeff, where exactly are you?
Talking on
Page 5.
page
It's on
6.
It's on 5 and exhibit 3, rule 3-03,
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's the fixed
D.
D, right, that, yeah,
Fixed
right.
terms.
And what were you suggesting? I'm sorry.
I'm just saying fixed terms rather than terms fixed by law. Because they're not fixed by law. It's not corporation.
Yeah.
More likely not to be.
Right,
Yeah,
gotcha,
that's
gotcha.
right.
Right,
That's an astute.
That's a good point.
And a parallel change
In the commentary on the next page.
Another question, don't we have to prepare, I can see it there, a statement of purpose and intent that has to accompany rules under the city charter? I know we have the commentaries, but I think we need an introductory statement of purpose and intent.
Is that prepared at this stage, or
Yeah, it has to
might
be-
that be
It
prepared?
doesn't have to be expensive, no, but just,
Anything else? So let me recap. I think I have, is it 6 fairly minor suggestions. First relates to Jeff's point about aggregating contributions. I forget exactly where that was.
Exhibit 3, page 10.
Exhibit 3, page 10, that's right. I'm just gonna, so let's make sure this, that was, yes, that's right. Exhibit 3, page 10. So that was 1. Number 2 was in the definition of household employees. Changing includes to means. The third is in that discussion of the commentary we just discussed. Changing expand to refine and making whatever appropriate prepositional changes go with that. The fourth is a new sentence added to the commentary to G along the lines we just discussed about giving an example of what's not covered. And then the 2 items we just discussed, which is the revising the consideration in D to change terms fixed by law to fixed terms, and finally look into, and if needed, to create an introductory statement of purpose and intent. As far as I'm concerned, these are all pretty minor. I don't know that, I'm inclined to call for a motion that the board adopt the recommended amendments to Title 53 with the modifications just stated, which again, I can read the 6 fairly minor ones I just mentioned. Aggregate means, includes to means, expand to refine, an example, a new sentence at the end of the commentary to G, terms fixed by law to fixed terms, and the statement of purpose. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The motion for adoption of the draft as amended has passed. There being no further business for consideration pursuant to the open meetings law, this meeting is hereby adjourned.